So now let's talk about dying. Let's add a death state. Let's call this prone death. So let's play our death animation, and what we're going to find is we have two. So which one do we want to play? Well, we don't have to choose. We can have them both. So what we can do is there's a little node that allows us to switch called there's blend poses by boolean and then blend poses by int. In this case, since we have two, we can actually use the blend poses by bool. That's just a boolean, so it's just a true false. So let's go ahead and do this one, and then later I'll show you how to use the int one. And they actually work pretty much the same way, it's just this one only gives you two options. So then, which one of these plays depends on what this flag is set. So let's pull this out here and promote that to a variable. And then what are we going to call that? Let's call that prone death flag. Now, how are we getting into this transition? Well, again, we need another flag, so let's go add one, and we'll call it the death flag AB. Now, you might have noticed we're adding a lot of flags here, and how are these being set? Well, right now they're not. So we need to have something in the pawn which is telling us what these flags need to be set to. In the case of the death flag, the easiest way is to have a boolean in the character which says whether or not it's dead or not. But we don't have to do it that way. We can go into the event graph and maybe query the character's health points and if it's below 0. Or if the character has fallen off of a cliff or whatever other events that might signify that the character is dead. So it doesn't have to be a one-to-one correspondence all the time. You've seen that here where we actually get the velocity and compute our movement speed as opposed to just looking it up. But either way, we need something in the pawn that tells us whether or not the character is dead, and then in the event graph, we'll take that information and set this flag. Same for the reload, same for the prone flag and the crouching flag. So we're adding flags that there are no hooks for yet in the pawn. So as of right now, it's just for our preview. We will not see any of this stuff happen yet. So now we got this prone death flag. Actually, that's a bad name for this. Let's call it prone death anim index. The problem is that right now this thing is set to false, which is its default value. So we're always going to play number 2. What we need is a way to turn this on or off whenever we want to, or through some random function. So let's go here at the transition. And at the start of the transition, let's add an anim event. We'll call this alt prone death bool. No, let's not call it that. Let's call it random prone death bool. Okay. So if I compile that, and I got to compile it first. So now I go to the event graph, and I'm going to come over here where I got some space. I'm going to right click under anim notify event, random prone death bool. we're going to set this. Now what are we going to set it to? Well, let's get a random function, random bool, and just plug it in there. And we can tell this is working by simply having a print string. So let's test that. Let's go prone. And then play our death animation, which we did not. Oh, death flag. No, it's not doing the print screen. You know what? We forgot to tell these things not to loop. So let's try that again. First we got to go prone. Then we die. And still doing number 2. Go prone. Then we die. And that, see, now this time it's playing number 1. Last time it played number 2. So that's working. Now you'll notice that once you get into death, you can't get back out. Death is a one-way trip, just like in real life. So that's fine. So then let's come out from standing and let's do our own